All right, then we are live. Thank you so much. All right, hello everybody. Very warm welcome to all of you to our LinkedIn Live. I first noticed that like the attendees list was amazing. We had people joining from everywhere, and in fact, that's also true for the both of us. I'm joining from Bangalore, India, and Bill is in North Carolina. We would love to know where you guys are joining us from. So please, drop a comment in the comment box and let us know where you're joining us from. Uh, it's this initiative, the LinkedIn Live that we have today, has been going on for about a year and a half, where we've been inviting advancement leaders and experts to talk about things that matter to our industry, right? In the past, we've hosted conversations on engaging young alumni, how to have international alumni engagement, and also leveraging chat gpt for engagement and advancement, right? Today's conversation will be on how can small shops make big impacts, right? And we have with us a very special guest, Bill. Bill Miller is the CEO at Kean University Foundation, but that doesn't begin to tell the full story. He has had an amazing career. He's been the chief development officer at different organizations. He's helped them he spearheaded their major gifts initiatives and stuff like that. And fun fact for the day, throughout his career, he's been involved in initiatives that have raised north of $1 billion. Without further ado, I would love to invite Bill and talk briefly about his career and a bit about his background. How have things led to him, being where he is? And yeah, start us off. Hello, Bill.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. And thank you. Let me start off by saying thank you. It's Thanksgiving time in the States, and in that spirit, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody who's listening for your time, because I know that there are a lot of really good people in this business, and time is precious. But it's just a terrific business to be in. It's a terrific time for Kean University and for the Kean University Foundation, and I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today. In terms of, I think your question as to kind of how did I get started in this work and what led me to the Kean University Foundation. I guess you can say it's been a terrific ride over the past 20 years, and hopefully I have 25 or more to still embark upon. But I went to school in Virginia. I'm actually calling in from North Carolina, by the way. Some of you on the call might be wondering why, because Kean University is located in New Jersey. But we actually had a donor meeting with a very special friend last night, talking about ways in which she could give back and support our foundation. So I figured it was easier to call in from the hotel than it was to call in from the airport. So in true development fashion, I'm joining the call remotely. But getting back to kind of this work in this business, it's just a terrific space, and it's getting better and better, in my opinion. I mean, if you look at philanthropy just last year in the United States alone, almost $500 million was given away, and that's a huge number. And if you think about it even further, the majority of that money actually comes from individuals. It doesn't necessarily come from ExxonMobil or Apple. And that's not to say that corporations aren't very generous, but just people overall, people are very, very generous. And when I was at school in Virginia, I graduated. I had a degree in English. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with that. So I came back to New Jersey, where I grew up. And as fate would have it, I met the late CEO of CCS Fundraising. His name was Bill Hanrahan. And that's kind of how I learned the business. CCS, as some of you may know, is a full service nonprofit management and consulting firm. And they conduct all sorts of projects with really every different sector in the nonprofit space. But whether it's conducting development audits and assessments, feasibility and planning studies, actual campaigns or major gift initiatives, interim staffing, board development efforts. CCS does all of that. And that was a great way to kind of get to know the business, get to learn the different aspects of the business. And I guess you could say things kind of kickstarted for me when the firm asked me as to whether or not I wanted to move over to Paris, France, and conduct an international campaign for one of their clients.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, that was pretty easy to say yes to. I didn't have to think too long about that. So I did that. I moved over to France, and at the end of that project, when I came back, I guess you could say the firm gave me bigger and bigger projects. And the hallmark of my CCS career, I moved out to Pittsburgh to serve as the executive director for a $125 million capital and endowment project. And now that I look back on it, that was a lot of work, and that was a project. And what I mean by that is we didn't even have a centralized database of constituents when we started. So we had to construct and build a database. We had to raise a lot of money, and we had to build a team. And at the end of the day, thanks to the really hard work and a little bit of luck, we as a team finished with about $230 million in philanthropic commitments.
Wow.
So that was terrific, and and really got things moving for me on a professional level. But the best thing that could have happened to me was when I was in Pittsburgh, I became a dad. And while I love CCS and the work that they do, the life of a traveling consultant didn't make as much sense for me as a new dad. So we got my daughter back to New Jersey to be near her grandparents, and then I decided to go in house. And as you referenced in your opening comments, I've served as the Chief Development Officer for the Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of New York. I've served as the Chief Development Officer for the American Red Cross. But I'm at Kean University, and I've been here for the last 5 years. And it's been a terrific journey. I'm very much looking forward to talking to you a little bit about what we're doing at Kean that we seem to think is working, and hopefully the conversation will be helpful for those listening in today.
Yep, I'm sure. Thank you so much for that, Bill. And I also recalled while you were talking about yourself that about 5 months back, we at Alma Base had a 50 under 50 campaign where we chose 50 professionals under the age of 50 who are doing remarkable work in advancement, and Bill is also a 50 under 50 winner. So moving on, Bill, before we start talking about how can small shops have big impact in general, it would be right to set the context as to what we're working with, right? So I would love to know how is the team structured at Kean University Foundation. What exactly is it that you guys do, and what's the structure of the team is like? And if you could just give us a brief about that, so that we have a benchmark for a team there in mind. Yeah.
Sure. We have a terrific team. We used to call ourselves small but mighty, but we're growing. So we're hopefully going to become medium but mighty very soon. But when I started 5 years ago at the foundation, believe it or not, we only had 4 people on staff. And I'll talk a little bit about how we've continued to grow over the course of the conversation. But now we've got a team of 12, and we're looking to grow at the end of the day as we embark upon the university's next kind of major philanthropic-wide fundraising campaign. I could see us landing with around 20 or so. And it's a terrific team. They wear many different hats. Their commitment is total, and I can't applaud them enough for the work that they do, because they work really, really hard. They're very, very dedicated. And it's not just at the foundation, too. We're grateful in that our academic partners, our deans, our colleagues at the university, our university president are very invested in our success, as are our board of directors at the foundation and the trustees at the university. We've really got all of the ingredients that you need to embark upon, major philanthropy and growth, and to really make philanthropy a major part of kind of the fabric of Kean University. And at the end of the day, I would attribute that to a few things, right? So when I was at CCS, I learned that any successful nonprofit organization needs a couple of key ingredients, or needs maybe 3 or 4 key ingredients, and one of them is a good story to tell, right? So what is it that the respective organization is doing? What's their case for support? What's their reputation really within the community, and how are they inviting others to become involved? And just over the last 20 years or so at Kean University, the institution continues to rise. That story continues to get better and better, and it continues to become more and more impactful. So that exists, and that is very exciting for us at Kean. But we've also, as I was saying, we've got terrific leadership, right? So our board of directors, our trustees,
Yeah.
our academic partners, there's just so many people that want to help and make sure that we're successful. And I don't know, it's kind of an uphill battle if you're a nonprofit organization and you don't have that component or that backing. So we're very grateful for the
Yeah.
support we see from our leadership. And then there's two other components that we have and we're grateful for. So we have a really, really strong network and universe of friends and potential friends. We have alumni that are obviously baked into our donor pool, but we have a lot of donors that aren't necessarily graduates. And in addition to that, we're seeing a lot of growth on our corporate and foundation outreach. So Prudential, New York Jets, the Red Bulls, Amazon. These are all partnerships that have developed over the last few years and are very exciting and impactful. And then the last kind of piece that we need, and this is where our foundation team kind of comes in for the moment and takes the lead, is a blueprint, right, or a plan or a roadmap as to how to get to, as to how to continue to grow and how to continue to do everything that we can for our faculty, for our students, for the entire Kean community.
Yeah, that makes sense. And before we sort of take the next question, you said that the team has grown from four to it's about 12 now, right? In that, first of all, so I have a two-parter for that. One, how has that growth journey been? And two, during those different stages, how have the priorities and the goals changed? Because I'm sure uh, when you're a four-member team, the it's not to like belittle or say that the work is easier, but like the probably your goals are much more immediate and in short term, as now that you are at a team of 12 members where there are much more specialized roles within the team, right? So how have the priorities and goals changed, and what different stages of growth have you guys seen in the past 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, we've seen some tremendous growth, which is really exciting, and hopefully we can maintain that as we move forward. I think it depends on where you are as an organization and your evolution, and also what your strategic plan and vision is. And what I mean by that is 5 years ago we had a different kind of focus than we do now. So 5 years ago, when I started at the foundation, we conducted what I call a philanthropic capabilities assessment, and we did all of this in house. But essentially, what that means is we did some benchmarking. So we took a look at peer institutions and other organizations, and took a look at their structure, their model, their staffing size, and really how they raise money and kind of how they operate. So we did that, but we also to start off, with a new team and kind of with a new vision and a new energy. We spoke with a lot of our donors and our friends and just leaders across the university to get a sense of where they thought the foundation should go, what the foundation was doing well, what the foundation could do better. And then also we took a look kind of under the hood. So, what are our processes and systems? How are we raising money right now? Is there something that, we should be doing that we're not doing? Where's our revenue come from?
Mm-hmm.
So we did all of that. And that was kind of like phase one in the master plan. And then COVID hit, and nobody saw that coming. But we were fortunate in that the Kean University Foundation structure, we're not solely reliant on one form of revenue. We're diversified. We also were fortunate in that while we were growing, we didn't grow too quickly. So we were able to kind of weather the pandemic pretty well as compared to some other nonprofit organizations. So coming out of the pandemic, we went into what I call phase two, which is launching a feasibility and planning study to determine as to whether or not now is the right time for Kean University to launch its next campaign. And one thing that really jumped out at me when I was interviewing for the position was, believe it or not, Kean University hasn't done a full-blown university-wide fundraising campaign in about 15 years. So I knew that there was an opportunity that existed once the infrastructure and the momentum was there to really kind of begin these conversations. So we just wrapped up that process, and we tested a $100 million fundraising goal. And we're taking a look at that number as to whether or not that's going to be our final number. But that's a long-winded way of saying our board of trustees and our campaign steering committee fully endorsed the idea of us moving forward with a major philanthropic undertaking. And now we're in the stage of going into a campaign. We're not quite in a campaign yet. We're kind of in the planning execution stage before you go into the silent phase of the campaign. But
Yeah.
we're moving forward full throttle. And if you think about over the last 5 years, you talked about growth and how did we get to that point. It was kind of that three-phased process, right? So taking a look under the hood, taking a look around, conducting an assessment, then testing as to whether or not growth was realistic and something that made sense right now for the organization through the study, and now actually utilizing that momentum and that growth to hopefully raise a lot of money. I would be remiss if I didn't say that over those last 5 years, we're very excited too with philanthropic output and what we're seeing at the foundation. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look at our history, we were founded in 1984. So we have a big birthday coming up, and that we're going to be 40 years old next year.
Yeah.
But over that 40-year period, about $100 million, give or take, has been donated to the Kean University Foundation. And if you take a look at just the last 5 years, $25 million has been donated to the Kean University Foundation. So 25% of all overall philanthropic revenue in our entire 40-year history has been generated in just the last 5 years, which I think speaks to the really, really good work that the team is doing. And then we just closed the books on our fiscal year a couple of months ago last year. And if you just look year over year, we saw a 24% increase in our donor count, and we saw a 78% increase year over year in our philanthropic revenue. And we're pretty excited about that because the trends I'm seeing across the country, at least across the United States, are a dollars up, donors down phenomenon. And I think even last year, adjusted for inflation, we saw a dip in philanthropic giving as well. So the fact that we're moving against those industry trends right now, I think is really positive.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, Bill, we have a question here in the comment section. Can I? Yeah, it's on the screen now. It's from Nicole. I'll just read it as well. It says, you mentioned having a strong support base from alumni and friends, and more recently securing corporate donors, sponsors like Red Bull and Amazon. How do you navigate convincing them to contribute specifically to your department as opposed to the more typical preference for sponsoring athletics that many corporate partners tend to have?
Sure. Well, I think it depends on. I think it depends on the partnership. I think it also depends on the respective vision of the donor. So at the end of the day, what we try to do at the foundation is align donor interest and intent with the respective mission of the foundation. But given our structure, because Kean University is a state institution, our foundation is actually a separate 501c3 organization. So all philanthropic dollars that are secured to support Kean flow through us. And some of those are restricted and support athletics specifically or some particular program. And some of those are unrestricted, and we try to use those where the need is greatest. And we're very much, as much as possible, some donors are very big on supporting a particular initiative or element of the university, but we're very big on talking about the value and the impact of unrestricted giving. And I know that that's something that we're seeing across the industry right now. Mackenzie Scott's helping out a lot with that. But we do try to weave in the impact of unrestricted giving in pretty much every conversation we have with our donors. And, fingers crossed, knock on wood, we're seeing some positive results from those conversations in that we actually just closed the books on our, not just our fiscal year, but our annual giving program. And it looks like we've had the best year in terms of unrestricted dollars raised. There are some restrictions in our annual giving program, but most of it's unrestricted money. And we've seen the best year, I believe, since 2006 in terms of the annual giving program. So just talking about impacts, talking about where their donation can make the most difference, I think is something that we really need to do with each and every one of our donors and prospective donors.
Yeah, that makes sense. I hope that was helpful, Nicole. All right, moving on. So before I ask the next question, I would actually like to talk to the guests in the room as well. So we at Almabase came up with an ebook, and we did this in partnership with Blackboard. The ebook is called "Maximizing Impact with Minimal Resources: A Guide to Effective Alumni Fundraising." So if any of you are interested in it, please drop a comment saying ebook, and our marketing team will reach out to you with the ebook. And yeah, so moving on, we've talked about, like, we've set the context about the Kean University Foundation structure, different stages of growth, and how have priorities changed. With that context in mind, and with now wanting to leverage the experience that you have in the industry, both what you have done at in your career, and also what you've seen some colleagues or other teams do, what would you say are some of the creative ways in which smaller shops can develop and implement their vision?
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind for me is promoting the impact of philanthropy again. So a gift of $1 million at the Kean University Foundation is arguably a gift of $100 million at some of those institutions that have $1 billion plus endowment, right? And I think making sure that donors and investors understand how far that dollar goes, I think is really, really important. As we look to continue to build out our team, and we continue to work with our colleagues and academic partners across Kean University. One thing that we try to do is be enthusiastic and passionate as possible. So if I think about a few key ingredients, one would be, as you're building out a team or you're thinking about embarking on kind of a major fundraising project, one would be obviously the value of relationships. So it is a
Hmm.
people business, right? And that's not just externally with donors and friends, but also internally with your organizational partners, and making sure those relationships are really strong. I think that's a part of it, but also, just communication. So not
Yeah.
necessarily always being the ones doing the talking. Maybe on the flip side, doing more of the listening to make sure that we're trying to accomplish for our donors what it is that they want to accomplish from a philanthropic perspective. Also, in addition to that, I think a topic that we didn't touch on too much yet is the data, right? Because the numbers don't tell the
Hmm.
whole story, but they certainly point us in the right direction. So,
Yeah.
making sure that you have systems and numbers and financial benchmarks in place to kind of help you go, help you along the way to make sure that you are hitting your respective milestones. I think that's something that you try to build in. So those are just a couple of kind of like key ingredients that come to mind, and then also just talking about the great work of your respective organization. I mean, we're in a really great position right now at Kean University, in that there's so many
Hmm.
wonderful things happening. It's almost tough to remember everything, um, but just to give you a couple of highlights right now, we're growing. So we had the largest freshman class that we've ever had at the university, which is really exciting. But if you take a look at some of our programs, like our speech pathology program is one of the best in the country. So is our occupational therapy program. Last time I checked, I think our STEM 4-year graduation rate was second only to Princeton in the state of New Jersey. So what I guess what I'm saying is taking a look at the areas that have a real momentum, because people want to be part of a winning cause, and then
Yeah.
promoting that good work is usually something that pays off when talking to philanthropists.
That makes sense. And you also very briefly touched upon some great things happening at the foundation. And even before, when we talked about, you had in passing touched upon some of these success stories. As we come close to our conversation, would you like to talk about a couple of them, and sort of you a couple of success stories that A, stand out for you, and B, how did you sort of go about achieving or creating those stories?
Yeah, I could talk about the Kean University Foundation all day, but in terms of a couple of success stories that jump out at us, one, arguably the most important, is our retention rate. And now, if you look at the
Hmm.
industry, that's a challenge, right? I think a gift officer might only last 18 months based on a study I just heard about last week. So, keeping good people and keeping them inspired is something that we all need to do and need to make sure that we're focusing on. And there have been people that have joined, over the last 5 years that are still with us, and our retention rate, as compared to industry standards, is very good. And if you think about it, we've got an endowment of roughly $100 million, but our most important asset is our people, and there's no foundation without the people. So, to me, that's really important, and that sticks out, and that we're building a team, and people genuinely believe in the work that we're doing. And then even just last night, the donor that I met with here in North Carolina, I was beyond inspired by her philanthropy and her willingness to give back. Because believe it or not, before we were Kean University, we were known as Newark State College. And when she was living in New Jersey many years ago, she received a scholarship to attend Newark State College, but her father did not let her go to school back then. And she took a different career path and a different journey. She moved to Baltimore. She ended up settling in North Carolina, but she always wanted to pursue a degree in higher education. So she actually went to the University of Maryland and did get that degree. But she never forgot that Newark State College offered her that scholarship many a year ago.
It's so sweet. Yeah.
And because of that, she has decided to make us her top philanthropic priority and make a major donation to the foundation. So it's those types of stories that
Yeah.
that you just have to capture and you have to run with as much as possible.
Yeah, that is a brilliant story. Now, just to like sort of close our conversation, small shops need to sort of leverage their resources really wisely, right? In your time, in your experience, how would you sort of like advise small shops, or what recommendations would you have for small shops to sort of leverage tools in order to use their resources much more efficiently?
Yeah, one of my mentors once said, "Bill, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority," and that stuck with me. I think that's really really important and something to remember, really on a daily basis. But to piggyback off of that, one of my other mentors said, "Bill, there's all this stuff that's constantly going to be going on around you. At the end of the day, just get a gift, right? Because that's why we're here. That's our mission. And in many ways, gifts solve problems, or gifts help us to accomplish our respective goals." So I would make sure that you keep in mind that fundraising at the end of the day is what's going to ultimately move your mission and your organization forward. I would dig
Mhm.
down a little bit further and say, okay, where is the revenue coming from? And I mentioned earlier, for us over the last 5 years, $25 million has been donated to the foundation. But if you dig down further, 10 million of that has just come from 3 people, right? So that goes to show the power of major gifts and making sure that you're moving relationships forward. And you've got every prospective donor and investor in the right stage of solicitation readiness, because philanthropy can have a major impact. And when the time is right, making sure that you're dedicating your efforts and your energy to something with an ROI that's going to pay off down the road. I think it's important for every fundraising shop, but particularly if you're a smaller shop, you have to make sure that you're focusing on areas with the best ROI.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now that I see that we're coming to the close of the session, once again, I would like to remind our audiences that you can drop in the comment section ebook if you want the ebook that we came up with in partnership with Blackboard, which is a guide to effective alumni fundraising. Also, please do follow Bill. He has some amazing advices and suggestions on fundraising. Bill, anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, it's been a terrific conversation. Once again, I'm grateful for your time, and I'm grateful for everybody who was listening in today. Happy early Thanksgiving for those of you in the States. And I think next Wednesday is National Philanthropy Day, so hopefully we can all take advantage of that as
Yeah.
well. But thank you for your time, and by all means, reach out to me under separate cover if you have any questions. The Kean University Foundation is growing. Check out our website. I would be happy to continue the conversation.
Yeah, we would also drop the website in the comment section. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you so much, Bill, for this lovely conversation. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everybody. Bye bye.